Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Gillette Pozos, and here with me is
Omar Pozos. What is up, RVGFN fam? How are you guys doing? Happy Tuesday.
Woo!
Well,
Tuesday
for us, it's Tuesday. For them, it's Monday.
It's whatever day you're listening on.
Happy Monday. How about that?
Happy day. Yeah. Happy day to you.
Fair.
Well, today's going to be probably a quicker, more punchy episode. We haven't done one of those in a while, but I really just felt like wanted to get something a little bit more motivational out. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning from one of our faves, Justin Sua, the Increase Your Impact podcast.
He's been awesome. I love him.
If you haven't been listening to our podcast for a long time and you don't know this, like that was one of our OG favorite podcasts that we used to listen to like 5 years ago, just part of our morning routine. And we had him on our podcast last year.
Yeah, I was just looking up the episode. We were lucky enough to have him. He was amazing. And I love him. Everything he does, I'm like, this is so great. And he's such an awesome mindset coach. I'm like,
I love him.
Justin, I love you. He's going to be like, all right, I'm going to block this guy on Instagram.
But we've always loved everything he puts out. But anyway, I was listening to one of his recent episodes this morning, and he was talking about success and really posing the question of, are you pursuing success or are you putting yourself in a position to be successful? And what he really means by that, what he kind of goes on to talk about, is that a lot of times people just are very focused on metrics of success, whatever that might be. Maybe in the health and fitness space, it might be women who are wanting to get leaner. So they might look at success as being, is the weight on the scale going down? Are my measurements going down? Are my clothes getting looser? Am I visually looking leaner in photos? And they might be like, all right, these are my measures of success. And that's all they look at. And if we only focus on pursuing success as defined by those measurements that we choose, and we aren't actually focused on putting ourselves in a position to be successful, which is what he goes on to really talk about, of like, what are the things that you're doing? What are the actions that you're taking? A lot of people end up never actually reaching success because they're so focused on the outcomes and they're not focused enough on their actions.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it kind of goes back to, like you said, we have to kind of redefine success and make sure that we're doing the right things each and every day to help us get to that long-term journey, get us to that long-term goal. I listened back, and by the way, he was episode 48 on our podcast, shameless plug there. But if you guys want to go back and listen to it, he talked about just high performance and mindset and all that stuff. That was awesome. But for what he was talking about, and it really hit home for me. It was, are we executing and doing the right things day after day so that we can get that 1% better, so we can embrace that boredom of consistency and see our process through to ultimately be able to get us to where we want to go. And I think that's so important because at the end of the day, especially in the fitness journey, we are so obsessed about the clothes that we're wearing or what the number on the scale says and stuff like that. But what we don't realize is that when we go for the quick results, the quick action, we end up putting our body through the ringer. And that's where we see some of the metabolic resistance, hormonal issues, as opposed to if we do things the right way the first time and we put ourselves in a position to be successful for the long run. Think about how much better that is long term,
Yeah, well, true results are delayed. Essentially, like what you're doing today is really not going to affect who you are tomorrow or even next week or maybe even like the week after. It's really going to show up in your quote unquote results in the next few months. Like think 3 months from now, what you're doing today is going to start to pay off. And that can be really frustrating and really hard for a lot of people when we live in this instant gratification society where we want to be able to be like, oh, I want this now. Let me Amazon Prime it to myself right now. Yeah. And so it's when we decide, I want this thing right now. I want this body right now. I just realized that, Memorial Day annual party I always go to where I always feel uncomfortable in my body. I always end up putting on the shorts and feeling like, oh my gosh, I hate how this feels. Now I'm uncomfortable. Now my legs are chafing. Now I don't want to be in photos. Every year I go to that same party and I have those same thoughts and it always sneaks up on me. And so suddenly now I do the crash diet to try and get ready for it. But the reality is, if you want to be ready for that, we have to start working on that months in advance. So it's today, what you're doing today is going to affect how you feel in your body come 4th of July Or even sometimes it might be longer for some people, because the reality is, and this goes back to what Justin is really arguing here, why we have to let go of pursuing success and replace that with more so the act of putting ourselves in the best position to be successful by focusing on our actions, is because success isn't within our control. These metrics of success, so again, going back to the health and fitness kind of example, if we're using these metrics of our clothes getting looser, the scale going down, our measurements going down, at the end of the day, sometimes you can do everything right. You could be tracking macros and hitting your macros spot on with a great coach who is really determined what your macros should be for you. You could be getting in all of your workouts that were beautifully designed by an expert coach. You could be getting, your sleep is perfect. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Like, you could have everything in place. And if somebody looked at everything you're doing, they would be like, wow, you are so healthy, so fit. You could be doing everything right, and your body still might not respond, because some bodies just take time. And if we're undoing past actions that have put ourselves in a place, like Omar was saying, of metabolic resistance, sometimes these things take time, and that timeline can be different for different people.
Yeah.
So rather than only focusing on success and then getting disappointed when maybe success doesn't come quick enough, it doesn't arrive tomorrow via Amazon Prime, instead, let's put our heads down. Let's eliminate all the distractions, all the noise of what we're seeing on social media of how we should look today and beating ourselves up over it. And let's look at the actions we're taking today. Are we going back to all the things we were talking about? Like, are we tracking our food? Are we ensuring that our macros are right for what phase we're in and what we should be doing with our body right now? Are we exercising? Are we training? Are we moving in the right way for our bodies right now? Are we taking care of our sleep? Are we taking care of our stress? Are we really doing all of these things to set ourselves up for success, knowing that we can't guarantee success, but we can put ourselves that much closer to it by taking the right actions, taking the right steps?
Yeah.
That's the question we have to ask ourselves.
Yeah. And I want to play devil's advocate here for a second and say, I'm gonna be honest and just very transparent. I love the instant success. I love the instant gratification. I love it just as much as the next person, right? And sure, if I could come up with something to be like, you know what, I'm going to help you lose the 10, 15 pounds in the next 30 days, I would do it. But the reality of it is, if you go for that instant gratification, if you go for the quick fixes, the short-term solution, you have to be really honest with yourself. Is that really success? Because both you and I know what ends up happening with those processes is we lose the weight, and as soon as we stop restricting ourselves or avoiding alcohol, avoiding donuts, avoiding sweets, the weight ends up coming back, right? So you have to ask yourself, was that really successful? Because at the end of the day, if you're losing the weight, but you're regaining it, then you're back at square one. So you really didn't do anything. You just lost time. Exactly. And at the end of the day are you going to have 10 years and 10 bodies to be able to work on this stuff, right? And are you going to be able to avoid the other health concerns that come with all of these fad diets, all of these things? Or wouldn't you just rather do it right the first time? And like you said, put the blinders on, eliminate the outside noise, and actually work on the things that are going to increase the odds of you being successful, And that's what you just have to be, ask yourself, and you just have to be honest. Be like, all right, what is it that I really want? And what am I going to gain from here? And what does success actually look like for me?
Yeah, and it's truly about playing the long game. It's not, how do I want to feel in my body this summer? Of course, that's important to be considering these things, but it's not, how do I want to look and feel this summer? It's, how do I want to look and feel 10 years from now? What does that look like for me? What does my future self want? And allowing ourselves to zoom out and not get so trapped in the day-to-day of like, the highs and the lows, and now the scale's up and then the scale's down. I'm excited, but now the scale's up and now I'm upset again, and these ups and downs and seeing like the highs and the lows. If we just always zoom out, we're always taking that like 10-year viewpoint on success, then the highs aren't so high and the lows aren't so low, and we can truly just focus again, going back to everything I keep saying, focus on the actions. What are the actions that you're taking today to be successful, to really set yourself up for success? So that's really what I want this episode to be about. I want you to take a moment here and really ask yourself, how do you define success within your health and fitness right now? What does it mean for you to be successful? Maybe take a moment here, like pause this episode and write that down on a piece of paper or in your phone or something. Get it out of your head and down in words and force yourself to define it. What does success mean to you right now? And then ask yourself, do you even like that definition of success? Is that what you're still going to want 10 years from now? And really zoom out. Think of what is your 10-year definition of success, and then really go back and think of, okay, what can I do today? What are the actions I need to take today to make that one step forward towards that 10-year vision? Not what do I need to do today for my, lose
Memorial
15
Day.
pounds
Yeah.
in 2 weeks kind of mindset that we know is not going to get us anywhere. What can I do today to become the person I want to be 10 years from now? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And then from there, all it takes is taking action. Go and do the first thing on that list right now. As soon as this episode ends, do it now. Prove it to yourself that you are capable. You can take those steps. You can prove to yourself that you can achieve what you want to achieve. You can be successful. And that's all it takes. Showing up like that day after day, week after week, month after month, and then that 10 years is going to fly by.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, time is going to pass either way, right? So, and one of the things that I wanted to add to your comment, Vanessa, was in addition, once you've written all this stuff out, once you see what success really is and what you see what those 10-year goals are for you, be honest with yourself and ask yourself, are the things that I'm doing right now actually going to help me get these goals and be where I want to be in 10 years? And if they're not, then it might be a time for us to look at another process of doing things before we burn ourselves out, before we develop other health concerns, or before we just throw in the towel and you're like, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that this episode
keep it short
stirred
and
up a
sweet
little
today.
bit of motivation in you, maybe amped up the fire, got you thinking about that 10-year vision. And if you do take that time to really sit down and create your definition of success, send it over to me. It's a good accountability exercise. And I just would love to be able to see where you're at right now. What does success look like for you? And offer you some support in that. If you need any support there, if you need help coming up with what the action steps are, I'm happy to do that. That's what we're here for. We just want to help you all as much as we can and really help all of you level up, transform yourselves, transform your bodies, your relationship with your body, your relationship with food, and truly become the person you want to be. So you're already doing it by listening to this episode. All you have to do now is go and take action. But that is all for today. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, let me know so we can do more of these short, punchy, motivational ones.
Yeah, and please share it. We don't obviously have any sponsors. We just want to help as many people as we can. So please, if this resonated with you, please post it on your story, share it with a friend, or just talk about it and let us know what you like, what you don't like. And I promise we will do our best to continue to put out as much information as we can.
Yeah, but that is all for this week, and we'll be back next week.
See you guys.